The B-29 was given its first operational mission in the summer of 1943 at a military conference in Quebec, Canada. General Hap Arnold, commander of the U.S. Army Air Forces, submitted a plan to use the new bomber to raid Japan from bases in China. It was a bold move since the B-29 was just coming off the production lines, and many problems such as overheating engines had not been fully worked out. Still, the plan was approved. The B-29 was going to war. The initial idea for building the B-29 began in the late 1930s when the concept for a very long-range bomber designed for the defense of the Western Hemisphere emerged. The United States still wanted to stay out of any European war, and the thought was a plane based in the U.S. could reach any potential enemy if it had a range of around 5,000 miles. In September 1940, the War Department authorized prototype planes to be built, 3 by the Boeing Company and 3 by Consolidated Aviation. The Boeing design, the XB-29, was superior to the Consolidated XB-32. Only a handful of the B-32 Dominators would ever reach service. Nearly 4,000 B-29s would be built. Still, in 1940, the success of the Superfortress was far from assured. The specifications for the bomber were extraordinary for its time. It could carry 11 men in pressurized comfort, up to 32,000 feet in altitude. Its operational range would be more than 4,000 miles. The tail of the plane rose nearly 27 feet. It had a wingspan of 141 feet and was nearly 100 feet long. It was designed to carry some 20,000 pounds of bombs at 350 miles per hour. The B-17 could only carry a 5,000-pound bomb load and flew much slower. The 4 turrets on the aircraft carried 2 50-caliber machine guns each. The tail gun position could be equipped with 3 50-caliber guns or a 20-millimeter cannon and 2 50-caliber guns. Control of all but the tail guns was through an early model computer, operated through a central command position. The gunners could aim by remote control. Putting the thousands of pieces together was a monumental job, and it didn't go smoothly. This was new territory in aircraft design and manufacture. By 1942, the project had earned the nickname the $3 billion gamble. The price in today's dollars would be many billions more. There was no certainty the plane would really work. In September 1942, the first prototype flew. Soon thereafter, another prototype crashed. General Arnold was getting unhappy. The planes were needed. The pressure was on to deliver. By summer 1943, production models of the B-29 were flying, but neither the aircraft nor its crews were ready for combat. Much testing and training remained, but the Air Force was facing a deadline. President Roosevelt had promised his Chinese allies that the B-29s would be in China to bomb the Japanese by January of 1944. The Chinese were getting ready for the arrival of their American allies. They desperately wanted to be able to strike at Japan. 200,000 Chinese laborers worked diligently to prepare the airfields, but they would use a process that was literally a world away from the technology at work in the Boeing factories producing the B-29s. The Chinese were building runways for the B-29 by hand. They had no concrete, so 4 runways, each of them 8,500 feet long, were made by hand-crushing stone. Wheelbarrow by wheelbarrow, loads of crushed stone was spread out. Slowly but inevitably, the runways were getting constructed. The Chinese worked for 9 American cents a day in pay. Giant 10-ton stone rollers were pulled along by hundreds of workers to compact the stone. Some workers were crushed to death in the process. Still, the airstrips were ready for the B-29s as they flew over the Himalayas from base camps in India. Though much work and preparation remained, the B-29s would be ready for their first raid. General Arnold ordered the initial attack to take place in June 1944. The target would be Japanese steelworks on the southern Japanese island of Kyushu. The Imperial Iron and Steel Works at Yawata produced 25% of Japan's entire rolled steel supplies. This enabled the Japanese industrial infrastructure to keep in full swing. The Japanese merchant fleet was still one of the largest in the world. As ships continued being launched, immune from Allied attack, they would be able to resupply Japanese islands under attack. This kind of strategic target was perfect for the giant bomb load of the B-29. Moreover, a B-29 attack would prove a great psychological boost for the Chinese, millions of whom were still under savage Japanese occupation. China did not have to suffer too much longer. Preparations for the first raid were underway. Virtually everything, from bombs to fuel, had to be brought in across the hump from India. This journey was dangerous on its own without the ongoing threat of Japanese fighters. Ground crews worked around the clock to get the bombers ready. A problem with overheating engines on the B-29 had still not been totally licked. Flight engineers would have to keep a close eye on all the giant craft systems. The attack would be at the relatively low level of between 8,000 and 18,000 feet and would be at night. What might be sacrificed in accuracy would be made up for by lowering expected casualties. Fuel was scarce. There was only enough gas for 75 planes to make the 3,200-mile round trip. Takeoffs commenced. One bomber crashed immediately, and another 6 had to abort the mission soon after getting in the air. 64 B-29s were left to head to Kyushu. The long ride would be tense for the many green airmen for whom this would be their first real taste of combat. Navigation in the night skies was difficult. only 47 planes found their targets. At just before midnight, the bombardiers readied themselves for the final approach to the steelworks below. Flak exploded in the midst of the bomber group. Still, the planes stayed on what they hoped was the right course. Finally, it was bombs away. Three planes were so damaged by flak, they crashed, killing all aboard. Another B-29 landed at an emergency Chinese field, but was attacked and destroyed by Japanese fighters. The results of the first B-29 mission were not good. Little real damage was done. Some bombardiers had missed their mark by 20 miles. Still, Japan had been attacked from ground bases. The B-29s would return, again and again. There were too many logistical nightmares at the Chinese airfields for even the Americans to overcome. Tokyo was still out of range. The B-29 would not come into its own as a credible strategic weapon until the Mariana Islands in the Western Pacific were captured by hard-fighting Marines. The islands of Guam, Saipan, and Tinian were only 1,300 miles southeast of Tokyo and were perfect for bomber bases. They were easily supplied by ship. Now, large-scale raids could finally be mounted. Still, it would take months of preparation before the airfields would be rebuilt and made ready for the heavy B-29s. Five airfields were prepared by hard-working CB engineers. Plane after plane arrived on the islands. The 21st Bomber Command would be responsible for the raids. General Arnold appointed one of his top men, Brigadier General Haywood Hansell Jr., to carry this new air offensive to Japan. The general's arrival set the tone for the upcoming campaign.
Well, the first element of the 21st Bomber Command has arrived. When we've done some more fighting, we'll do some more talking. Thank you.
The ground crews worked hard to make the bases ready for assault on Japan. The 15-hour round trip to Tokyo meant that little could be left to chance. There were no emergency fields in the vast Pacific for a wounded B-29. General Curtis LeMay, the tough, cigar-chomping Patton of the air, took command of the 21st Bomber Command. LeMay's goal was nothing less than the destruction of Japan from the air. The B-29s went out in increasingly large numbers. LeMay had some guns removed, so the bombers were lighter and could carry a greater bomb load further. The constant flying took its toll on the volatile engines. There was nearly a 25% engine failure rate. Maintenance procedures were improved. The capture of Iwo Jima brought the B-29 fleet to Japanese home waters. The bombers would have fighter escorts, and the island would serve as an emergency landing strip, saving hundreds of lives. While the logistical problems of B-29 basing had finally been overcome, the hazards of flying in the huge bomber were always present. The B-29 weighed some 65 tons. It had four 2,200 horsepower Wright R3350-57 Cyclone turbocharged radial piston engines that could barely handle the load. It took 40 seconds for the plane to get airborne, and it needed every inch of an 8,500-foot runway. Sometimes not even this was enough. The long missions meant the crews could be up for 24 hours at a stretch. Falling asleep was a very real danger. They might be in danger over Japan for just a few minutes of the 15-hour mission. Most of the time, they just droned to and from the target. The navigator was key to a mission's success. He would have to use dead reckoning, the occasional star sighting, and radar to figure out where the plane was heading. Until Iwo Jima was taken, any mistake could mean the bomber would not make it back to base. They didn't carry enough fuel to allow much margin for safety. Once the bombers were in Japanese airspace, everyone became very alert. The threat of Japanese fighters, especially in the early days of the campaign, was very real. Zeros were very effective fighters. The Japanese were flying at their ceiling limits, but still they could get close to the bombers. The B-29s faced an even greater threat as the Japanese grew more desperate. Pilots would adopt suicide tactics. If they could not shoot down a B-29, they would simply try to ram one and bring both aircraft down in a ball of flames. The battle in the skies over Japan was a very personal war between the B-29 air crews and the Japanese defenders. General LeMay changed bombing tactics in March of 1945. He ordered widespread incendiary bomb attacks on Japanese cities. The pretense of attacking strategic military targets was gone. LeMay took war to its logical conclusion: utter destruction of the enemy with the most efficient means available. It was, ironically, a humane way to wage warfare, if it resulted in a quicker end to the madness. 334 B-29s went on the first firebomb run. 16 square miles of Tokyo was destroyed. Ultimately, more Japanese would die in the incendiary attacks than from the atomic bombs that would soon fall on Japan. The devastation was total. In spite of the incredible damage done to the Japanese people and the horror they were experiencing, the Japanese High Command refused to give in. President Truman gave the go-ahead for B-29s to drop the atomic bomb, first on Hiroshima and then Nagasaki. Japan finally surrendered. The war was over. Thousands of airmen had died in the war against Japan. The B-29, in spite of its early problems, had become the backbone of the American assault on the home islands. The B-29 would still serve in the new U.S. Air Force during the Korean War. It proved itself a capable conventional bomber. But soon it was surpassed by the new jet bombers. A number of B-29s were transferred to the British Royal Air Force, where they served a nuclear deterrent role with the designation Washington. The Russians copied a captured B-29 and developed the Tu-4 nuclear bomber. The last B-29 would retire from the U.S. Air Force on June 21, 1960. The Superfortress could finally stand down after a job well done.